The movie takes place in Mexico, and it starts with a montage of green things, such as a green painted woman, green water running down the stairs, and strange green liquid covering the streets. At the moment, there is a lot of social unrest in Mexico, and every day, thousands of people die. In the next scene, we see a hospital where the doctors and nurses are running to get all the beds ready for the badly hurt protesters. A very old man called Rolando is with his wife, Elisha, at the same hospital. She is so sick that she has to pay a lot of money to have a heart valve replaced. But the hospital doesn't want to take the risk right now. The doctor tells Rolando that he should look for another private hospital for his wife because their beds are full. This is a big problem for Rolando, who is in the middle class, because the surgery will cost him about 100,000 pesos, which is a lot of money. Outside of the hospital, the city is in a very dangerous state. Guns are being fired all the time, planes are flying dangerously close to the city, there are explosions happening all over, and people are being killed as if their lives don't matter. In order to deal with the problem, the government has sent in the military. But instead of keeping the peace, more shots are fired, so the number of people killed keeps going up. In the middle of all the chaos in the city, we meet Ivan, a top government figure. He is having a big party at his luxurious home for his daughter Marianne after her wedding. Rich people and business leaders in nice clothes attend the party and give the newlyweds expensive gifts and cash. Marianne gives these presents to her mother, who puts them in a safe place. Soon after, Marianne's mother starts to worry because the water in the area is turning green, which means that a rebellion is about to start. She calls her husband because she is worried, but the green color disappears before he gets there. After telling her not to worry, Ivan goes back to the party. But his wife is still worried and tells Marta, the head waiter, to find out where the green color is coming from. After a while, a well-known government official called Victor shows up, so Ivan takes his family outside to meet him. Victor tells the family that their permission to live on the land has been accepted. This shows that even though the city is in a dangerous place, the rich have been able to get away with all their expensive wants. Not long after that, Victor realizes that the risk is getting worse, so he and his family leave quickly. Rolando shows up at the wedding party while it is already going on. He is the family's handyman, it turns out. He goes to Marianne's mother in a humble way and asks for $200,000 so that his wife can get emergency surgery. When the woman gets back to the party, she asks Ivan and Daniel for money. She gets about 35,000 pesos together and gives them to Rolando. The money, though, is enough. Soon after, he runs into Marianne and tells her what's going on. Marianne wants to help him right away because she is a kind person, so she calls Daniel. But he just gives him some more money and tells him to go. Marianne is upset by this answer, and when she tries to get into the safe to get more money for Rolando, she finds that the password has been changed. She then asks her family members for help, but no one is willing to help. This makes her angry. She has no choice but to bring her own credit card, but by the time she gets there, Rolando has already left. So, she takes Christian, her father's driver, and sneaks away from the wedding party to go to Rolando's house. A few seconds later, they find out that the cops have shut down the roads around her mansion because they know attacks are coming. Since this is the case, they have to go a longer way. While driving, they turn on the radio and hear that riots have taken over the streets, but the government hasn't done anything about it yet. Back at the house, the bride's family finds out that she has gone missing, which makes them very worried. As they call the police, the head waiter, Marta, calls her son, Christian, and finds out that Marianne is with him. She tells her to go back to the house right away, but Marianne says the guests can wait, but Elisha can't. After a while, they figure out how to get to Rolando's house. It turns out that the old man is Christian's uncle. When he gets inside, he tries to call the police, but the phones aren't working. Even though things are hard, Marianne says she will still take Elisha to the doctor. On the other hand, the red and green clad protesters break into the house. Their boss shoots Ivan, which makes everyone run away in a panic. Surprisingly, the security chief doesn't protect his boss. Instead, he shoots the guests and helps the protesters trash the house. He also kidnaps Marianne's mother and makes her open the safe. Once she does, he kills her without any feeling. In the meantime, the workers go through the house and steal everything of value. Marta is the only one who stays true to her owner. She hides in a room and calls her son quietly to tell him not to come back. One of the protesters sees her and knocks her down, which is a shame. The protesters then destroy everything left in the house, killing Daniel's pregnant wife in the process. It looks like the rich are getting what they deserve for being greedy and arrogant. Later that night, Marta wakes up and finds out that the mansion has been destroyed totally. She rushes back home as the chaos keeps going on. Ivan is put in an ambulance the next morning and taken to the hospital. Now, it looks like things are finally under control at the house. Marianne chooses to go back home, so Christian goes outside to find out what's going on. During this time, he is quickly met by a group of soldiers who offer to take Marianne home with them. They believe the soldiers, so Marianne gets in the truck with them. The guards are rude, though, and ask Marianne to give up her phone, jewelry, and watch. We can see that the city is a mess, with dead people all over the place. Instead of sending Marianne back home, the soldiers take her to a military camp and put her in a cell with other victims. Most of the people who live there seem to be related to wealthy people and powerful politicians. Inside the building, they are all told to write down their names and phone numbers, which will be used to blackmail them later. At midnight, the troops wake up the women and force them to do what they want. Daniel, on the other hand, is overcome when he is asked to handle the paperwork for the funerals of his wife and mother. Later, he goes to Victor, a well-known government figure, and asks him to help him find Marianne. Victor agrees right away, and he presents them to General Oribe, who can help them. In the next scene, the family mourns the death of a loved one at the funeral. Ivan is sent home from the hospital the same day, but he still needs to take care of his health at home. Shortly after that, Victor goes to see him and tells him that they will find his daughter as soon as they can. In the middle of all of this, the rich people's power and rule start to fall apart because their workers no longer obey them. Back at the military camp, the soldiers film the victims being beaten and send the videos to the victims' families with a ransom demand. At this point, it looks like the military has full power over the people, who are forced to do what they say. There is a national curfew, and people who break it are shot to death. Rolando is also worried about his wife's health getting worse, so he goes outside to ask the guards if he can cross the border. Even after they told him not to ask, Rolando kept asking, so he was shot and killed on the spot. Not long after that, Elisha also dies because she was sick and didn't get any help. Christian, Marta, and other people who are sad come to the church to show their support. At the same time, Daniel gets a call at the mansion from the military base. They want $1 million in return for Marianne's freedom. He and his dad go to Victor's office and show him the video to get help because he is scared of the threat. General Oribe says he will use all the information he has to find out who took Marianne when he hears about it. In the next scene, some of the people who kidnapped Marianne find out that their boss only plans to pay them 200,000 pesos, which they think is not enough. So, they decide to find a different way to make money. They go to Christian's house in secret and beg him to collect 800,000 pesos in exchange for Marianne's safe return. They give Marta and Christian 2 travel passes to show that they are in charge and have power. The next day, the mother and son use the travel passes and go to the house of their boss to tell him the bad news. Ivan is desperate and has no other choice but to pay 800,000 pesos. Daniel gives them the money in the hopes of getting Marianne back. Christian and Marta take the money back home and give it to the people who took them. Unfortunately, the kidnappers are too greedy and want another million pesos, saying that the first payment was just a deposit. The third hostage is set free at the military base after his family pays the fee. But as soon as he gets out of the cell, he is shot and killed without any compassion. The sound of gunfire scares the other captives, who scream in shock. It means that the military is not only asking for ransom money, but is also killing the prisoners. This makes it unlikely that any of the hostages will be able to go home to their families. The next day, Christian and Marta tell Daniel what's going on and tell him that the kidnappers want more money. This makes Daniel suspicious, so he calls Victor right away and blames the staff for Marianne's disappearance. With this knowledge, General Oribe and his team go to Christian's house and wait for the people who are going to take him. The cops catch them as soon as they get there. But Marta, who has done nothing wrong, is also taken into prison. The cops then raid the military base, and Marianne is saved and put in a police van. Once she is gone, the kidnappers and the people they are holding are killed one by one. The cops pour petrol on the dead bodies and start a fire to make sure no one ever finds their tracks. A lot of families' only chance was the rescue, but it turned out to be a massacre. Marianne thinks she is safe and has been saved, but things are not what they seem to be. General Oribe brings her to Christian's house, where she and Christian trade looks. Neither of them knows what will happen. Soon after, Marianne is shot in front of Christian, and her body is dumped in the bathroom. The police officer gives Christian a gun, setting him up as the person who killed Marianne. Christian is shocked and doesn't know what to say. Before he can say anything, he is also shot and killed. The next day, Daniel gets bad news from Victor and General Oribe. They say that the people who took Marianne shot and killed her. All of the bad things the cops have done are hidden by this lie. At the end, Victor and General Oribe sit next to Ivan at the event where he is put to death. They are acting like they didn't do anything wrong. Marta is one of the 3 people who have been hurt by the cruelness of the upper high. They will soon be killed in front of everyone. This event marks the start of a new order that is run by the military. People who don't have advantages have no choice but to follow their rules.